Welcome each and every one of you to our Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting. I will now call the meeting to order. We will start off with invocation and from there, pledge. Would everyone stand, please? Darryl, you want to do?
Let's pray. Father, we just thank you so much for this beautiful day that you've given us, Lord, an opportunity to gather here tonight to do the business of Colleton County School District. I just pray that you would be with us all. Help us to be of one mind and of one accord, Lord. Help us to put our children and our staff first in everything that we do, God, that we would try each and every day to make the decisions that would make our district the very best anywhere in this country. Lord, I just pray that you would just watch over our staff, watch over our leaders and our administration, Lord, and watch over our school board as we try to do those things. We thank you for all that you've done for us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I would like to entertain a motion to approve our agenda for tonight.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda for tonight.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor of the minutes, please signify by raising your right hand.
That's the approval of the agenda.
Thank you. I will now go to public input. Is there any public input? Well, thank you. We will continue on to new business, superintendent evaluation. We have dates set for May 23rd, June 1st, and June 6th, along with June 27th will be, June 22nd will be our final. We don't have a time, so would 5 or 6 o'clock runs better for everyone? 5 would be great for me if everyone agrees to it.
The date.
It's on the agenda. It's May 23rd, June 1st, June 6th, and June 22nd.
I'm not opposed to 5 o'clock. It's just that the 6 o'clock is our normal board time. So, but it's just going to be those are meetings
Correct.
that will just be executive session.
Correct.
Okay. 5 o'clock works for me.
Well, I don't have any opposed, so the meeting will be at 5 o'clock. I will now move into superintendent report. Ms. Jones.
Okay, thank you. Is our superintendent? Dr. Key.
Before Dr. Cave starts, you can come on up. I know that the attorney will be at the meeting, and I said 5 o'clock, but I just want to make sure that it's okay with you all. Okay, all right, thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Cave.
Good evening to everyone, and welcome to our superintendent's report for this evening. I'm going to alter the PowerPoint just a moment because our athletic director is going to come first because he needs to be able to get over to the playoffs, and I want him to be able to get there, okay? So, Coach Austin, would you please join us so you can begin with your update from Colleton County Athletics?
Okay.
So I'm right next.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Well, hello and welcome, Coach.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Just going to give a brief update of Colleton County sports and just the season wrap up for the year. I'll start with fall sports, and I broke it down by season. We've got the football program. Our middle and our JV football team, middle school team and JV football teams had excellent years. They had winning records this year. The middle school team played in the conference championship. The JV team, they don't have one, but they finished second in the region this year, so we were really excited about what they did. Volleyball team, our varsity volleyball team, they won the PRTC preseason tournament, the silver division. Started off pretty well, got a little rocky with the region, but they still had a pretty good season. Our middle school team made it to the conference tournament for the second year in a row, and with it being our second year in the conference, they're doing really well, so we're excited about their potential. Competitive cheer, this was the first year we've done competitive cheer in a while. They did have a third place finish in one of the cheer invitationals that they attended, so we're real excited about that. We're going to be doing some revamping of the program to get it more competitive and to get the girls to kind of take a little bit more interest in them competing in a competitive level. We've also got the girls tennis team. They had a really good year. Ms. Brawley took over that program, and she's done a really good job over the last couple of years building it. We had over 25 girls. I put over 20, but there were really about 24, 25 girls on a consistent basis that are in our tennis program. They did a really good job this year just coming out, and we have over 15 girls who are going to be returning next year, so we're real excited about our tennis program. I'll talk about next steps for fall sports. We do have our football program. We did hire Coach Adam Kinlock. He's coming home to Colleton County. He is going to be leading the program. I can't remember what year he graduated from Colleton County High School, but he's real excited. He's had some experience being an assistant coach, offensive coordinator. So he's coming in. We did purchase new uniforms for the team this year. And so far, since being on the job, first thing he did was he hired 2 new coordinators. We got a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator. Coach Tommy Brown, some of you may know him. He's got over 30 years of coaching experience. He was in Orangeburg County for a while, took the team to a state title. And then we got a younger coach, but he's had some experience coaching at the college level, Coach Jacob Hector. I got to say his name right. But he's real young. He's coming to us from Rock Hill, but he's really super excited about working with Coach Kinlock. And Coach Kinlock's super excited about working with these 2 gentlemen. He went out in search of them, and they're coming gung-ho, ready to work. He's also in the process of hiring some additional staff. He's already hired 2 additional people. He did bring another alumni back, another recent graduate back to come, a young guy who he feels like he can groom. And, 2 of them, 2 people from the county. So it's going to be real exciting to see what happens with a lot of tradition and then starting some new traditions. The kids seem really excited. We've had over 150 students show up for spring drills. So they're out there, they're competing, they're working hard. And of course, we've lost a couple of them between the heat and the exercise, but you know, that's to be expected. We are expecting that all varsity head coaches will return for the next year, so I'm super excited about that. Not having high turnover and not doing a lot of recruiting, just continuing to build. The kids are excited too because they get to see a lot of familiar faces. We're in the early stages of planning. I've talked to Dr. Cave, and I've also been in contact with the rec department about seeing what we can do to kind of get our kids a little bit more interested in sports at a younger age and get them competing early. So we're looking at trying to introduce some sports into the after-school programs. So we're looking at right now volleyball, cheer, flag football, and then we also want to do pickleball. It'll be closed for tennis, but they have moving courts that we can move around. It'll be a lot easier at the elementary schools with the space that we have. Any questions about fall sports so far?
Coach Austin, can I ask
Yes.
a question real quick?
Yes.
It says about the football, it says hiring additional staff.
Yes.
Are those more creative positions, or is that just turnover and he's hiring to replace
Turnover
us?
and just hiring additional people right now.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes.
And Coach Hector, what will his position be?
He's going to be our offensive coordinator.
But he'll be working at the high school too?
Yes, PE.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Thank you.
and Coach Brown will also be doing some PE and some strength training right now.
Okay.
Next, we've got winter sports. Our middle school teams, both teams advanced to the conference tournament. They did really well. We were really excited about them throughout the season. They sat in second and third place throughout the season. Both the varsity teams improved on previous years as far as the record was concerned. Both of them were probably a game or just a vote away from making it to the playoffs. They changed the playoff ranking system this year, so it just makes it a little bit more difficult, but they did really a good job. The JV programs, both JV programs, girls and boys, finished top of the region. So they were, I think the boys were number 1. I believe the girls were either number 2 or number 3 in the region. The wrestling program, we had our first middle school student advance to the state championship. So they do, for wrestling, do a state tournament. It's the only one in middle school that they actually do. And this young man, Mr. LaPresta, I think it's Jordan LaPresta, he advanced. So we're really excited about what he was able to do. And if I'm not mistaken, he's a 7th grader, so he's going to have another year to go out and do it. And it was first year competing competitively in wrestling. So we were really excited. He has some background in, I don't want to say it wrong, I'm not even going to say it, but he has some background in wrestling, but just not in competitively with the South Carolina High School League. And then we have a first female student athlete, his sister, who advanced to the semifinals for the state championship. So she did really well. It's her first year competing competitively. She's a junior. She's coming back next year as a senior. She plays 2 or 3 other sports, so we're excited to see what she's going to do as well. Next steps for winter sports, we're looking at both the basketball programs for on the varsity and JV level. They're going to be entering camps. And both coaches are going to be taking some students from the middle school as well to do the camps, because with basketball they can compete JV, middle school through high school. So they're going to be large teams going to some of the camps, but they're going to have a chance to attend the camps. And then we got some elite summer tournaments that both teams are entered into. They're also planning college visits and team building activities. So we're excited to see what the coaches are doing. They're 2 young guys who are really excited about the program, and they're putting a lot of energy into not just what they have in front of them, but they're also looking at the future and working with the younger kids as well. They're both planning youth camps as well. For wrestling, we're planning to host our first middle school tournament. We did hire a new coach last year, Coach Stephen LaPresta. He is a homegrown gentleman. He graduated from Carleton County High School. He runs the grappling arts school here, and he is super excited about working with the wrestling program. Him and Coach Jocks from the high school have really come together, and they're doing a dynamite job of building our programs. So we're excited. We have put in for capital projects to potentially get a new wrestling mat for the middle school, so that they can start hosting matches at the middle school rather than having to come to the high school, and then potentially host more matches because they'll have more availability. And then the wrestling coaches are working together, and they're looking at starting a youth program here so that the kids will have something to do over the summer. But again, getting the kids involved at a younger age so that when they do get to high school, they have a little bit more knowledge and feel of competing competitively. And all of our head coaches, varsity head coaches, are planning to return next year, so we're excited about that as well. Any questions?
How many schools do the wrestling compete with?
Wrestling? Middle school or high school?
Middle.
So the middle school competes in the Beaufort County League. I believe all of the schools have a wrestling team except for maybe 1 or 2.
Okay.
Yes. But with the individual tournament that we entered some of the young men into, that's a region thing. If they qualify out a region, finish top 3 on the middle school level, it's top 3, they get to advance to the state title, but they're competing against all the other middle schools who have teams. So.
Thank you.
With spring sports, we have the baseball team. We had our middle school baseball team won the conference championship this year. Super excited. We got to host it, and they won. So we're really excited about that. The varsity team made the playoffs for the 2nd consecutive year. We're going to get over that hump. We're excited because they are graduating a lot of young men, but they've got a really strong youth group coming up. So we're excited to see what's going to happen with them over the next couple of years. Our middle school softball team made the conference championship. They were 1 game away from making it to the championship game. Our varsity team, which is playing right now, I think their 5th game for the playoffs so far. They are at home, and they're playing Westwood tonight. So,
Cougars.
Sorry.
Go Cougars.
Oh. They have won their 5th conference championship in a row. Super excited with the job that Coach Tootie and Coach Rusty are doing over there. They just continue to push out great teams every year. So when you ask them, they say that we don't know, we'll be lucky if we win a couple games and then turn around and win 20. Soccer program, they had record attendance at the game, so it's good to see their support. The record wasn't all great, but they put a lot of effort in. You see the kids out there, and we've got a young group, So we're returning a lot of kids, especially on the boys' side. We're really excited to see what they're going to pull out next year. They're both programs are moving in the right direction. We just need to get more kids out. One thing that hurts us with the soccer teams is that we just never have enough kids to fill a JV program. So that's one of our areas that we want to kind of continue to push with our youth and at our elementary schools. So we're going to be talking with Wildfire to see what we can do to kind of assist them, and they can assist us as well. Track and field, we have 8 athletes going to be competing for a lower state championship title. They go this weekend to Florence to Wilson High School. We've got four school records that were broken this year. Javelin, high jump, and I want to say it was triple jump was the other one. So, but they broke, I think high jump got broken twice. The young man who's doing high jump right now is ranked number 1 in the state, and he's jumping a height of 6'6". So if he just goes out there and does what we know he can do, he's going to bring home a state title. So we're excited. And also javelin, she's ranked number 1 as well. We did have the opportunity, it was tasked, Dr. Cave asked us to host a tournament. So we did a 5th grade kickball tournament, something to kind of break up the monotony with the 5th graders and kind of get them introduced to competitive sports as well. We're not going to talk about which school won.
Bells.
Hendersonville was second.
It was a really good day. It was very hot that day. It was surprising because after that it cooled off. But the kids enjoyed it. We had the high school kids come over. They were chaperones, and they kind of really ran the tournament for us. The only thing I had to do was tell teams to go where. But they refereed the games. They told the coaches to go sit down. They didn't have a problem talking to their old teachers like they need to, do their job and coach the teams. But it was really, really exciting. The high school kids enjoyed it. They're already ones who did it and plan to come back next year, want to come back. I even had some seniors say that they wanted to be contacted so they can come back and help as well. So I've been tasked with adding an extra grade level. We'll talk about that later, Dr. Cave. But I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to end up turning into a big thing. And if Dr. Cave has her way, I'm sure I'm going to have to do all of the elementary grade levels. Next year, we are planning to host the Wednesday prior to spring break. We'll have to see if the weather holds up because spring break will leave a little earlier. And then we are looking at adding an extra grade level to possibly participate. So we'll see how that works. All varsity head coaches are planning to return. We currently have a substitute for track and field, but we're in the process of looking to hire someone else. But all the other sports, everybody's planning to return. We're in the early planning stages of trying to get golf, pickleball again, a running club at the elementary schools. And again, we're going to talk to the Wildfire about possibly looking at soccer as well, if we can find space to do it. The JV softball teams are in the planning stages of hosting a JV softball tournament. We already host a JV baseball tournament preseason, but JV wants to do something towards the end of the season just to give the kids more of an opportunity to play. Softball is a sport that is struggling, and a lot of schools just don't have teams, so they're not getting as many games as a lot of the other programs are, so we're trying to do what we can to kind of get them some extra games. We're going to be hosting our annual awards tailgate tomorrow at the high school from 6 to 8. Please come join us. We'll have inflatables out there, photo booth, dessert tables. We have a DJ for the night. We're also going to give out lots of awards and door prizes. So it's going to be a good time. It usually moves pretty fast. It gets hot, but you don't notice it because everybody's just having a really good time. So we'll be outside in the Booster Club parking lot over by the stadium. We are planning a first tailgate for a spring game this year. We're having our first spring game in 4 years, so this is going to be exciting. We're going to be having it on the practice field at the high school because the game field, we're getting ready for graduation, so we're going to be on the practice field. But it gives us opportunity to tailgate and everybody to kind of be together. So we've kind of set it up to where if you're in the tailgate, you can still see what's going on in the game, so we're really excited about that. So anybody interested in tailgate spot, please let us know. They're $25 right now. And then I want to...
Could y'all send that date?
Yes.
The date for that? I'm sorry. I know. I see it
That's the
somewhere.
19th. I'm sorry. That's next
That's all right.
Friday.
All right. Thank you.
I didn't put that on. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And then our athletic department won best overall this year's Rice Festival, so we're super excited about that. We had over 80 athletes participate. We had 2 floats, and it was too many kids for the floats, so they ran. They didn't mind it. They enjoyed it. But we had a really good time. So, are any questions about spring?
You say that we don't have many soccer players in the lower grades.
No, not in the lower grades, just soccer players, period. You're looking at the numbers for a soccer program, for one team, you're looking at about 20 kids. So if you don't have 20 kids to fit just that one team, it's only going to be that one team. If you go over the 20, you have to have enough to have reserves for the other team as well. I think for boys, they came out with about 23, 24. The girls had about 18 kids that showed up. So it kind of makes it hard to get a JV program out of that.
Well, is the rec center taking some of our students away from this?
No, it's not the rec center because they're struggling getting kids as well. So it's just getting more people involved in the sport.
Okay.
Soccer's not a real high-profile sport in America, and in this area, it's just kind of hard. If you're not playing for a travel team or one of the distinguished teams, it's hard to get it going. So, and that's something you start playing when you're 4 or 5 years old. So.
To piggyback on what Mr. Murdoch asked, I feel like the correlation that you've already stated and connection with Wildfire Soccer is going to help to build that.
Yes.
So grateful that you're continuing to invest in that program, but also our rec center programs. Just want to make sure, Coach Alston, I know that we're working to develop our athletes, but that we work with those community organizations that have those programs already, like the rec center. For basketball and baseball specifically, but if we can collaborate with them too on some of these others. I know you mentioned volleyball, cheer, flag football, and pickleball. Question or connection I wanted to make real quick, which was one, I did look over capital projects and noticed our middle school bleachers are on that list. I'm very happy to hear about that. You mentioned also the middle school wrestling mat as something else, but with engaging these added sports at the elementary level, do you need additional equipment at the elementary schools, and is that already in our capital project?
That's why we're working with the rec center. Okay. If we can get it to where we do the collaboration where the coaches might be at the schools and they're coaching them, but the games are happening through the rec, then we won't have to, possibly we may not have to put the additional out there for the equipment. But we're working with the rec department to where they can help with the budgeting, and then after we're seeing where it happens, then we can see where we have to put in as well. But we don't have youth golf, we don't have youth volleyball, and those sports are suffering for the high school because our kids aren't introduced to it at a younger age. So we need to get them competing earlier, and we need to get them competing competitively. And we see it with football as well. And as much as even starting a flag football program help, because they start competing competitively, learning the rules, learning terminology, learning the expectations, and we'll see a difference in 5 to 10 years.
I know our athletic department works so hard, to grow all avenues of sports, but, just want to acknowledge the connection that you have with the rec center, that we help them with gym use, with their rec programs, with our facilities. So thank you for doing that. And I want to say, I see you as much as I see SROs. So you're everywhere, and we really appreciate it. The community involvement that the Rice Festival showed, really, I told Dr. Cave it was wonderful to have so many district representatives in that parade, and appreciate all that the athletic department did to make that happen.
Thank you.
Coach Austin, I want to echo just thank you for everything that you're doing for the athletics. But how are we doing pickleball at the elementary schools?
With the pickleball, we can set up the courts and they can play. I mean, you don't need a lot of space for pickleball. Tennis you do, but with pickleball you wouldn't. It would just be getting the nets and getting the paddles, and a lot of them already have it because they're starting to introduce it at a younger age. Pickleball is probably one of the fastest growing sports in the country.
It is.
So
my question, just kind of what Ms. Whitkin said, is that something that we need funds for equipment, or you said most of the schools already have some?
Well, it's not that the schools have some. We're trying to work with the rec department to see what they have, but then they also have funding to kind of grow their programs and get more people involved. If we go through the after-school programs, it won't be a question of having enough kids involved because they'll be doing it in the after-school program. Also, we take away some of the barriers for parents as far as transportation, time, because they'll be doing it. So I think the after-school programs are running anywhere from 2.5 to 3 to 4 hours. So within that time frame, if we develop an hour and a half where the kids can just get a chance to get out there and run around a little bit and pick a sport or something to do, then we can get them introduced earlier. And then if they're competing through the rec competitively, we're getting those competitive juices going so that eventually we can start doing it more at the high school.
Awesome.
Coach Johnson, appreciate this wonderful report and all the sports that you've gotten to grow to this level, and the kids that we have and the coaches. I particularly wanted to highlight wrestling, and I'm so happy to see that we've expanded that to the younger grades.
Yes.
20 years ago, we were a 4A school and did not have a mat and had a coach like you that was interested in growing it, and so I'm happy to see we now need a mat at the middle school.
Yes, and if we can get enough females to do it, we can get a female team and they can compete competitively as a team. So we're trying to expand that as well.
One more point about capital projects, and I know we have lots of requests, but one thing is the middle school football team kind of plays a little bit everywhere, but I think they're mostly at the middle school.
This year, they wanted to be at the middle school. In
Yeah.
years past, they wanted to be at the high school. It just depends on the coaches and where they want to play at. They wanted to play at the middle school because it's just easier for some of the kids to just get to the games and stuff because they're staying after school.
Totally.
And then with the middle school, they start a little bit earlier. So, playing at the middle school for them is fun, but sometimes they want to come to play at the high school, just depending on, sometimes it depends on who we're playing too.
Understood. The bleachers at the middle school football area, I think, are in need
Yes, ma'am.
as far as for student
Yes,
requests.
ma'am. We've been talking about just improving the middle school area, not just the bleachers, the track, the field, all of that. So I think that's probably going to be in our next go-around, but that's going to be a lot more money, so.
One more shout out, and that is for your staff, I feel like has done a really great job of recognizing athletic talent, and whereas a lot of players and our student athletes may be, excelling in one sport, they try to engage them and keep them in, hey, you're good at this sport, why don't you make sure you're keeping that going and going into other sports. I saw a lot of that this year, and it's really appreciated.
And our coaches are doing a good job. We've got a lot of young coaches, and they're working together to kind of build the programs. We've got two young ladies that if our softball team keeps advancing, they're not just going to be playing in softball. Saturday, they're going to have to go run track as well. So, we do what we can to make sure that these kids are getting exposure, but they're also getting opportunity. So,
I just want to say thank you for all that you do. Thank you for taking into consideration with the budget, being collaborative with the rec center. You're doing an excellent job, and we just want to thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good night. I'm about to head over to the high school.
Send us, tell them we said good luck.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Coach Austin. You did a good job. He does a wonderful job with our athletes.
He does.
Okay. Go to the next slide, DJ. Thank you. So tonight I'd like to talk with you a little bit about programming for 2023-24. There's a quote that said the best laid plan is a plan that you do purposeful planning. So instead of adding lots of new programs, what you do is you work with what you have and you expand on those things and you do those things well. We'll continue to work with our nail tech and barbering. A lot of that renovation will continue over the summer. Personal finance is something that's state mandated that we are having to offer to our ninth graders. We got more correspondence about that today. So we'll be adding that as a half unit coupled with something else. Family consumer science is something that we will continue to expand in our middle school. Our HVAC, we're excited about being able to bring that on board ourselves. Right now, we collaborate with the Technical College of the Low Country, but we're looking to bring that on and hire our own teacher in that area. We'll have to make some adjustments because geometry will now move to the ninth grade. So we'll be working academically with our curriculum instruction to make sure we're addressing over the summer, redoing our pacing guides so that we're able to address the move of those standards. Virtual reality, career exploration, and supplemental materials for grades 4 through 12. Working with that with CT, with Thunderbolt Career and Technology. There is an opportunity for us to do some virtual reality with the children. So it's not anything new. They already do career exploration. We're just going to take it from the computer part and do the virtual reality headsets so that they can feel like they're actually experiencing the career. Students really, really like that because a lot of them are into gaming, so to have that virtual reality opportunity would be great for them. After-school expansion to second grade from the Original Six Foundation, that's already in the works. We have 2 schools that have Original Six in collaboration with them, and they currently have that program, so the foundation is expanding that to second graders this year. So we're looking forward to Cottageville and Northside being able to engage their second graders in the after-school program as well. And we are looking to bring something back. I'll skip down to Teacher Cadet. We used to have Teacher Cadet here. So one of the main things to do with retention is to be able to grow your own teachers. So if we're able to revitalize our Teacher Cadet program, hopefully that will get us on the trajectory of being able to grow our own teachers, because we'll start with our own students looking towards that career in high school. Now, coupled with that is the middle school program. That would be something that would be an addition, but it would be a wonderful addition for that pro team to begin in the middle school. So that's the program that kind of mimics the Teacher Cadet program at the high school. So those are some of the things that we're planning for the upcoming school year. Do you have any questions there for me?
Dr. Cave, could you say a little more about the geometry in 9th grade and what prerequisites are required for that?
I don't know specifically what the prerequisites are. They're just moving that course out of the 10th grade year and moving it to 9th grade. Can you comment? Yeah. I know they're doing it statewide. That's a mandate from the state. But the prerequisites for the course are not going to be any different from what I have gathered.
And does that begin this next school year?
It does.
Okay. And does it also include the personal
So
finance? Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, the finance class for 9th grade, because those are both 9th grade classes.
It does. It
Okay.
begins this coming school year,
Okay.
yes. So we're looking at a pilot this summer. We're a member of the Low Country Consortium. I serve as the president of that organization for Berkeley, Horry, Charleston, Dorchester. And Colleton are all a part of that. So there is money for us to be able to pilot that course. So we're looking at piloting that personal finance this summer with a group of our students that are in summer school.
And then the consumer science, the family consumer science, is that at the high school?
That's at the middle school. That's at the middle school. And right now, they do a great job. They go over to the high school. They go over to TCTC now and do a lot of collaborative projects there with our current chef.
Is that construction complete at the middle school?
It's not complete, but they're working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think it'll be
Well,
ready by?
Yes,
next
ma'am.
week?
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to put a pin in it, but
Okay.
it's on the plan to be finished by then.
Okay.
And get everybody back in their homes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any additional questions? All right, let's keep going. I think our next opportunity for us to come before you is going to be our district assessment. You have that one, DJ? The district formative assessment? All right, so Ms. McDonald will be doing the district formative assessment presentation. I will be here to answer any questions regarding the data as well as any additional questions you may have. Ms. McDonald.
I don't know that we have a paper copy of that.
They're coming right now.
Okay, thank you. But it's the same report
Yeah.
that we received email. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good evening. Members of the board, community members, Colleton County stakeholders. Tonight I'd like to provide you with some information on our formative assessment tool and how our students have progressed throughout the school year.
Excuse me, but Madam, could we just save this until we get our hard copies and come back to that? We don't have the copies she's going by.
How long will it be before?
Look at the monitors.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. She may have them already. I wasn't aware that you don't have them. Could we take a slight pause and break the camera just a moment?
Okay.
If that's allowable, so that we can wait for those, Chair? Vice Chair?
Yes.
Okay, So we'll take a quick pause. All right. A little recess, and we'll get those copies for you.
Okay. All right. So again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to present our data about how well our students have progressed this year on our formative assessment. So as a reminder, the state has an approved list of formative assessments that all districts must choose from. There are 3 on the list: MAP, iReady, and Renaissance. And we have chosen iReady as our formative assessment, and students must take that assessment 3 times, fall, winter, and spring, in grades K through 9. So let's take a look at what our data actually tells us for this school year. As a reminder, before we begin, you can look at data in 2 ways. You can either look at the achievement or you can look at the growth. The achievement looks at the performance level of a student regardless of the grade level the child is in. Growth looks at where the student started and how much progress that student has made throughout the school year. I'd like to highlight that there are 2 growth measures, and those are typical growth, which talks about the growth from fall to spring, the amount that he should grow in 1 year. And then there is what's called stretch growth, and that stretch growth means that the student has progressed more than what the typical student grows within a school year. So if we move forward to our grade level placement data, and in the system for iReady, for grade level placements, students are either placed in green, yellow, or red. If a student is in green, that means that that student is on grade level at some point, either beginning of the year or through the end of the year. Yellow means that they are slightly below grade level, and red means that the students are at least 2 or more grade levels below. You can see at the beginning of the year, in fall of 2023, we had 16% of our students on grade level in the green. When you look at the spring bar underneath that, you will see that we had 36% of our students on grade level. So that is an increase from fall to spring on achievement of 20%. If you look at the students who were below grade level in the red, you can see that we had 46% of our students scoring in the red, versus in the spring, we had a reduction to 35%, which means we had a decrease of students scoring below grade level by 11%, which is another positive data point, because we want to decrease the number of students that are below grade level. So if we move forward to our math data, you can see that a similar story. If you look at the beginning of the year, there was very, very little green. Around 5 to 6% of our students were on grade level. And if you look at where we were in the spring, we had 26% of our students on grade level, which is an increase of 20%, not 26%. If you look at the students that were below grade level, you will see that there was 53% of our students 2 or more grade levels below. And then if you look at the spring data, you will see that there was a reduction to 37%, which is a reduction of 16% of our students scoring 2 or more grade levels below. So with that being said, let's take a look at our projections to SC Ready. If you look at our English language arts, you can see that we used MAP last spring versus using iReady this spring. To be on the formative assessment list, there is a projection study, a linking study done to make sure that their projections are aligned and correct and can be predictive of what SC Ready will be. So if you look at last spring, our district was 18.41% of our students expected to meet or exceed expectations. And please know that MAP and iReady and STAR does not have a writing component. It only has reading. So you will see that last spring, we had about 18.5% of our students projected to meet or exceed. And you can see when we took SC Ready and included the writing, we had 25.5% of our students meeting or exceeding. If you look at iReady, just taking on the reading and look at where we were last spring, we are higher than what our MAP data predicted. And so as we've started our testing this week, we hope that when we include the writing, that 23% is predictive, and when you add the writing onto it, there will be an increase overall for our SC Ready scores.
Ms.
So-
McDonald?
Yes.
May I ask a question? You spoke of the 3 different assessments and how they all 3 have the same predictability with regards to the SC Ready test. Are the results, though, from each formative assessment comparable or comparable? May we look at iReady in the spring of this year and compare it to MAP of last year?
So if it is, so like MAP had 18.5%. They've done that study to be predictive of SC Ready. So in order for them to be on the list, that has to be a true indication and a true prediction. So the same can be said for iReady. So while they're all on the list, so they should all be predictive of where our students should perform on SC Ready.
The predictability, I understand. To compare what I'm looking for
Yes,
is the
yes,
pre-scores.
yes.
Okay, so we can
Yes,
compare
yes.
how our students
Yes, our
tested
students have done
before.
better. Our predictions this year are higher than our predictions last year.
Thank you.
Maybe that helped
Yes,
clear it up a little
sure.
bit. So you can see school by school and across the district, our predictions this year from iReady are higher than what they were from MAP last year. So if we move forward to math, you can see we still are struggling a little bit with math. You can see that MAP had 13.64% last year, and you can see that with SC Ready, we had 13.82%. That was actually meeting or exceeding expectations, grades 3 through 8. And our iReady scores have indicated that we have a slight improvement, not a lot, but a slight improvement. So they are at 14%. Some schools have done better than others, some grade levels have done better than others, but this is a trend. When we met with the consultants for iReady, this is a trend nationwide that many schools and districts and states have made up the loss from COVID in ELA, where they're still struggling to make up that gap in math.
A question. The ones who are struggling, that is below, are we doing something extra? Because, I mean, I'm familiar with what you're saying because I looked at my grandson's report that came in, and I know that all of his, he met grade level. There was like 2 or 3 that he maxed. So for a child who did not meet those levels.
So that is the beauty of iReady versus MAP or STAR, because there's an instructional side to iReady that MAP and STAR did not have. So they have a personalized pathway that provides them instruction on the skills and domains that they are weakest in. So we did have a lot of success with our students working in their pathway and with the lessons passed rate for our students and pretty much at all of our schools.
Ms. McDonald, do we see the 9th grade in the course reflected here?
I did not have the 9th grade in this report because they had not finished all of their testing. Theirs has been a little different due to some of the scheduling, but they are working on completing that. So we've been talking a lot about achievement. So if we move forward to the growth portion of it, remember, growth is just as important as achievement on our report card. There's half of it is achievement and half of it is growth. So we need our students growing just as much as we need their achievement. So if we look at our ELA and you look at across the board in grades 2 through 5, you will see that at least half of our students have met their typical growth, that they have grown exactly what they needed to grow. And in addition to that, many of these grade levels have 20 to 25% of them who have met their stretch growth. So we will be working really hard next year in trying to make sure that these kids who have met their stretch growth this year meet their stretch growth next year, so that they will then be closer to being on grade level next year. So you can see across the board where we stood on the percentages for typical growth. Most of them were hovering between the 45 and 50% range. And then if you move forward to the math, you can see that while our achievement wasn't great, it was kind of between the, some grade levels had more success than others in meeting their typical growth, but I would like to highlight kindergarten and ironically grade 8. Grade 8 had almost half of their students meeting their typical growth, and then you had almost a third of your 8th graders who met their stretch growth. And meeting their stretch growth as an 8th grader is extremely difficult. And then if you look at our kindergartners, you can say the same thing. They had 55% of them who have met their typical growth, and you had 36% of them to meet their stretch growth. So we hope that that data trend continues for next year. So moving along, the company had teachers provide them with a survey at the end of the year when they finished their last presentation with the teachers, because they come in after the last diagnostic and meet with them and look at their data and provide strategies on how to assist students who may be struggling. And they provided some of these comments about the PD that's provided. Sometimes teachers will go to a professional development session and There's mixed feelings about the effectiveness of the training or what they could get out of the training, but you can see that from these comments, the trainings are always relevant. They had not only just going to it, but they appreciated the fun that they had in looking at the content provided to them, and that it was directly related to what they needed to be able to go back and look at their student data in their classroom. So, as I told you back in February when I presented this data, one of the ways that you can build success is when you celebrate small successes along the way. We recognize that we have a lot of work to do. Our students aren't where we want them to be yet, but we have to celebrate success, and our schools have really stepped up to the plate and done a great job with this. We've had growth parades, we've had outdoor games, we've had growth parties, we've had recognition at award celebrations. You can see on this slide there was a growth parade, and the one that I say looks like the little M&M guy, that's one of the characters from the platform, and I think his name is Snarg. Tiffany, am I right in saying that? That's Snarg. But that was at Cottageville. If you move forward, you can see that other schools did bowling parties, jump castles, again, the parade, and these are just to name a few. Our principals got very creative. We had parents writing notes to their students, and I mean, it was really sweet to see some of the things that our schools did for our students. And moving on from the district level, we took the perspective that we needed to recognize schools each month. And so recently we have recognized Bells Elementary in the month of March for the highest percentage of students meeting their growth targets in reading and math. And then the two schools who tied were in the same month was Northside and Forest Hills. As we have recently moved into our testing session, some of these growth celebrations have built student motivation, and I've seen lots of smiling faces, not as much, it's more about here's the big game, here's the big show that I want to do my best on state testing versus, oh, here's another test to take. So I applaud the schools for creating a positive environment for our students to take the test, and I feel sure that it will come out in the end that we've made some improvements. Any questions?
Ms. McDonald, can you define for me what typical growth, what that means?
So typical growth means if I am starting at this level in a grade level, it is what students at that achievement level, the amount of growth that they should see in 1 year. And then the stretch growth means that they not only grew that amount, but they grew additional.
So, for instance, for second grade, I'm looking at reading, I think, and it says 50% of the students met typical growth. Does that mean 50% of the students in second grade are where they're supposed to be on the second grade level?
It meant that the program identified a target for them to grow. So, for example, this is just for numbers. Let's say that I had a 400 scale score, and in spring, for typical growth, students who were that age level that scored that scale score, across the nation, teachers nor I can set any part of their growth targets. It's done by iReady. So it will tell them you need 50 points to get your typical growth. Then if he meets that 50 points, then he's met his growth target. So we had 50% of our second graders to meet their growth targets for the year.
Okay.
Growth doesn't necessarily mean they're on grade level. It means that they've met their growth target.
Okay. So with that being said, when we look and we see that 50% of second graders met their typical growth, that does not translate necessarily that 50% of the second graders are where they're supposed to be. A kid could be a part of that 50% meeting their typical growth, but they could still be 1 or 2 grade levels behind.
Correct. And please remember that in the accountability model, a growth point equals achievement points. So it's important that even though our students may be below, we want to make sure that they're meeting their growth targets so that we can gain at least growth points until we can get them to being on grade level.
Ms. McDonald, the first few pages where we have the bar graphs for fall and spring, we have one for reading, we have one for mathematics.
Yes.
That is where it shows the spring, that is like currently, right now, today, that's where already says we are.
That is where we were when we took the spring diagnostic, and so that was taken the 2 weeks before spring break. Because we didn't want to give them a test right after spring break and turn right around and 2 weeks later be giving SC Ready.
Okay. So I want to be very clear, and I want to be very, I applaud the growth that we have had in our district from fall to spring in both reading and mathematics. And I mean that sincerely. I applaud the growth of our students. I applaud the work that our staff has put in order to get those improvements. However, I also want to state, if my math is correct, as of right now in spring, our reading, we are at 64% of our students who are at minimum 1 grade level below or more. And in mathematics, we are 73% of our students that are 1 grade level or below. So while I want to make sure that we applaud the growth, and very sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I want to make sure that we applaud the growth, we have a desperately long ways to go in order to get our kids where they need to be.
And believe me, I can say this from attending all of these data meetings when iReady comes, that our teachers are working very hard. They are aware of where our students are. Our principals are aware of where our students are, and they are working extremely hard to do everything we can to make sure our students are progressing. And so, yes, I do agree, we have a ways to go. We have to continue those small successes to make sure that, because the championship team's not built overnight, we're going to make sure that we keep working at it to ensure that our championship team is built.
And I appreciate that. My fear is we only have so much time with these kids, right? So whenever we're looking at these charts and we have kids that are 2 and 3 plus grade levels below, we only have so much time that we're going to be able to catch these kids up, right? So, I mean, it'll be great if we can figure all of this out and, you know, in 20 years, all of our kids are where they're supposed to be, but every single day that goes by, we're losing kids, right? That we're not going to have the time to catch back up. So my reason in pointing out, Ms. McDonald, those numbers has nothing to do with the presentation you just gave. It has to do with a challenge to our board to make sure that every single thing that we do, every penny that is spent, every decision that is made, every policy that is put in place, it's done so with the critical importance of realizing that we're running out of time with these kids and they deserve better than what we're giving them.
I totally agree, but I do look at the fact that we are moving forward. And the key and the goal is to continue to go forward. And I feel that not only that the school have work, but we need to get with parents as well, so we can be, collaborative and work together, because it doesn't stop in the classroom. It has to continue at home. And I know that I have been helping with homework at home, and my 7-year-old grandson says to me, "Nana, are you sure you know how to help me with this homework?" So as parent, I know that it used to be some time back where we used to have workshop for parents to come in and also to tutor them, to get them on board to help with the homework while they're at home. So maybe these are some things that we need to take in consideration for parents to get more involved, so they can help with the children, help with their homework, help when they are struggling, where it doesn't stop in school but it continue at home. So we all have to get on that bandwagon and get together and try to move forward. And like he said, we have a ways to go, but we can do it if we work together.
I'd like to echo that and add, if we can get our after-school connected. I like that we have the iReady. I know teachers like it, that they can get the data. I always wanted this as a teacher, and I'm glad we have it at 9th grade. And if you'd please share that data to see how it, correlates to our success in the course, because I'm glad we have it through 9th grade. But also, a way that we get our after-school, like Mr. Irwin said, more time with those kids on specific skills when they're there in our schools.
Any more questions for me?
No, just as we review this data, I know how much effort goes into collecting it, and as we are in testing season, I just wanted to acknowledge our staff for all that they do, from everybody that goes into creating this data, but also making sure that our students are prepared for the tests that they're given. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald, and thanks to all of the staff and the teachers for the work that they have done. I will address a couple of the points that were made from the board. The teachers are working really hard. The students are working just as hard to make sure that they're meeting their goals. There are some things that we have in the works that we're planning. We're working on a math academy for the summer, not only for so that teachers can learn the new pacing guide, but so that they can hone in on their content more, so that their delivery of instruction is more engaging for the students. We're also examining maybe making some adjustments to our curriculum in terms of iReady. Right now we have big ideas. There are some teachers who like the iReady additional tool, so we may be adding an additional intervention. We are working for our summer school program so that it is very content driven, very innovative for children, and very focused on those deficit skills. There is something that I did present to you, and I'll always say what I know works for children to be able to show the progress, because the kids are making progress. The children were significantly behind. One of the strategies to be able to make that change is to move to the modified calendar. I'll keep bringing that back to you, because of the fact that children would be allowed the opportunity not to move on to the next grade level or the next set of standards without mastering that first part and being able to bring them in. So I'll keep reiterating that point, that there are ways that the board can support and help their entire focus for children to do, to be able to fill those gaps before they move along. Because I agree, they do need time to be able to get on grade level, and we're working desperately to get them there. Okay?
Dr. Kay, as you move
Yes,
forward
ma'am.
with that, I just want to make a note that, the support is there for the
Yes,
modified
ma'am.
year-end calendar.
Yes.
We discussed it in detail as it was presented. I just want to make sure that if we move forward with an idea like that, which there was a lot of information that was shared with the board that was helpful, but we've got to address the community concerns as we do that. As wonderful as what you just said is, and I think impactful for our students, we also have to address the community concerns, which involve childcare.
Yes.
And all the other effects that a year-round
Yes.
calendar would have in our area.
Yes.
So just want to make sure that you hear the support of those type of changes, but we've got to address the concerns
Yes.
that our community is telling us that they have.
Most definitely, and when I present the next part of my plan, you'll hear me talk about addressing some of those concerns.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Dr. Cave, before we move forward, what you just mentioned about summer school, can I just ask, will there be, maybe not iReady, but will there be some sort of beginning of summer school and after summer school assessment so we can see the growth that took place during summer school?
I'm going to let the summer school director, Ms. Hedden, talk about that. I believe that we are using the end of the year data. And we'll be using iReady testing during that time. I think we're also going to pilot the iReady, are we going to pilot that iReady curriculum during the summer? Are we using that? Yeah, we're using the iReady curriculum as well as for summer to be able to help with the deficit in math as well.
So, Ms. Hedden, just kind of like the chart that Ms. McDonald just presented, between the difference between fall and spring, we'll be able to see that beginning of summer and end of summer?
We could use the
End
end
of
of the trade.
spring.
The end of the spring and compare it to the end of the summer.
Can I get?
Got you. Thank you.
If she was
So
gonna speak on, I
you
would
couldn't
have
hear her.
comment.
I'll reiterate what she said. I can take the mic to her so she can say it. Would you say it?
We'll use the spring test scores that Ms. McDonald just shared with you and compare them to the end of the summer scores.
Thank you.
And remember, we need to have ending scores in order to look at promotion. Okay? All right. Any additional questions? All right. With your support, we're going to get there. They're making strides. Okay. The last thing that I'd like to talk with you about this evening is our facility plan. I come again. I did have the opportunity to talk with a board member about the intention of the motion that was made. And I have a little more clarity on that piece. Ms. Whitkin, would you mind clarifying the motion that was made? Because I'd like to be able to present this plan. Please,
Sure.
if you would do that for me.
And I appreciate that, just so that we
Thank
can make
you.
sure, because there was some confusion or a request that we kind of make that, restate the motion so we understand. But the motion that was made in April was to proceed with district facility changes necessary for creating an elementary alternative setting and relocating sixth grade students back to the elementary school in the 24-25 next school year, utilizing input from our Colleton County School District staff and stakeholders. I move, this was previous in April, I move our district create a complete outline of necessary adjustments and plans to include all facility and HR needs, and this plan be approved by the Colleton County School District Board of Trustees and communicated with the public by January the 30th, 2024. And it was the by January that I did clarify with Dr. Cave to make sure that there was no necessarily a timeline set, but to make sure that these plans for the 24-25 school year were approved by the board, but also communicated to the public so that there was no last minute change. Everyone was well stated and understood where we were moving for the next calendar or school year, a full 6 months prior to that facility change occurring.
Okay. All right. Thank you so very much for clarifying the motion. I do want to come back to you again, and I'll keep doing it because I'm going to advocate for what I think is right for the children and what I know that we need to help move the district forward. I've spent a lot of time studying what our district needs are. So our team worked on a different plan. It's the same plan. It's just a gradual move towards what we would like to do. And I'm coming before you to ask you to consider allowing us to be able to move forward with moving our sixth graders back to the elementary schools with the upcoming school year. While there was a motion, I am still coming to you again. And one of the reasons being is because there is definitely a cry for many of our fifth graders to remain at the school. I've had a number of calls. I've had teachers to speak to me. I've had parents to speak to me about the decision to be able to keep the children at the elementary schools. I've also heard the cry out about the alternative school, and we desperately need an alternative school. So I'm asking the board to consider some of the things that we sent to you to review. One of the main reasons I'd like to be able to do it is because we do have the existing space at the facilities, all except for one, and that's the north side, the north side site. So at Hendersonville, we have the space to be able to hold our sixth grade. At Cottageville, we have the space. At Forest Hills, we have the space, but we do not have the space at Northside. What we could do at Northside is to bring in a modular unit while we are getting ready, while we're making the renovations. The modular unit will cost us about $100,000 for 3 of those units to be able to house some of our related arts. We've looked at the pricing for that. It's actually $2,700 per month to rent that unit. So it would be about $92,000, $97,200. It's $2,700 per month to rent the 3 units. So a lot of the research that was presented before supported keeping our sixth graders at the elementary school, while there was some additional information that talked about the 7th and 8th grade. That 7th and 8th grade modeled together pertain to the importance of having 6th, 7th, and 8th grade together, or the importance of having 7th and 8th grade. So it wasn't negative in terms of me saying that our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders needed to stay together. It was more advocating for our model of our 6th graders going back to the elementary school. There are models out there that say that intermediate schools work really well for children, and it works really well for our children to have that additional time. We already see that they are not achieving at the level that we want them to achieve. With that additional support in the elementary type of environment, it would allow our children the opportunity to grow even more than they're growing now. So I'm asking you to reconsider some things. We've heard a lot of outcry that the Blackstreet community is not really ready to make the transition. So part of the plan that we're presenting tonight is for the Blackstreet Early Learning Center, Early Childhood Center, to stay intact for the next year, for the coming school year. So that family would stay intact. We would not move any of the facilities, any of the teachers or students from that building. They would stay just as they are. But we would move the 6th graders back to those additional outlying areas and the 2 schools in the city. When I do that, that would allow us the opportunity to be able to have our early learning center, our alternative center, Our alternative center then could move into, just temporarily only, into the 6th grade wing over at the middle school. We've looked at being able to block that area off downstairs, met with Mr. Blakeney. We could tie that bottom floor off. That would give us 12 classrooms. Right now, in our our alternative environment, we have 37 students that are there at Cass in our little 4, 5 rooms we have over here, 4 rooms. We have 37 in person there, and we have 63 children that are virtual. The reason we have those children virtual is because we don't have a place for them. Now, granted, some of them do need to be virtual, but the majority of them, we had to decide who was going to go virtual, who was going to come in, because we didn't have the space to be able to house those children. Over the period of time, we've placed 15 students back into the learning environment, and we had to decide, is it the best thing to put them back in the learning environment? Because we didn't have the space to be able to put all of the students, to place the students, to educate them appropriately. So I'm appealing to your sense of what I know is right and what you know is right for children. so that we can move forward with some of the plans, if not all of them, just a partial of the plan. Our elementary students, we have about 30 students who needed alternative. Those were students who had consultations and hearings. So there's a need for an elementary alternative learning environment as well. That doesn't include those children who on a daily basis, the principal or the guidance counselor or the assistant principal calls for the parent to come pick them up because the child can't make it through the rest of the day. So we need something additional for elementary as well as our middle and high school children because we're not able to serve them most appropriately in our current learning environment. Children need some children with the social and emotional struggles that they have, they can't handle the large learning environment. So we need to make some adjustments. That in turn would allow us to free up the space that we have currently here at the district office, and that would be able to be the elementary alternative learning program because that would be enough space for us to be able to house that portion. Then, as we continue with our plan, one of the plans for that particular area over there is for us to have our own daycare facility for our staff. So that's a part of the plan to be able to address some of those issues and to be able to work towards doing what's right for all of our community. So I come to you again tonight asking you to consider it, asking you to think about it so that we can at least find a place to meet the needs of the masses. Because right now, like I told you before, I want to be able to say the children are well, and I can't say that because all of the children our children need some additional supports. Okay, that concludes my report for
I
you.
have one question about the daycare. So you said daycare for staff. So if there are students who are parents, will that be considered as well?
We'll have to do that and I talked with, I'm glad you asked that. I've talked with Nurse Stengel about that, and we've talked about on a case-by-case basis because there are districts who provide those kinds of learning environments for their children, yes.
I just want to make a statement about the proposal presented and its relevance to the motion that was made last month. And the last month we were presented with the LS3P architect plans for the middle school renovation. The part that we did not receive was the parts of the plan within our district that would allow for the renovation of the middle school. The change of where seventh graders would start the year, they would move, necessary for the bottom floor to be completed, and then the switch that would occur. That was what was presented last month, right, Dr. Kay?
It was. Yeah.
But also we have to move the sixth graders from where they currently are, back into the elementary school setting. And the original plan had the option for us to consider an inner city early childhood center, and then also the 3 through 6 at Forest Hills. There's a lot of changes to that necessary for the middle school renovation. We're creating an alternative school. We're closing down Black Street. We're moving all of our sixth graders. The part that looked good was the middle school renovation. The questions that were left unanswered were about the everything else. I feel that April, and now we're into May, is a significant time for parents to make decisions, for our educators to make decisions on their career choices, and it feels like a time of too much uncertainty to make that many changes. That's why I made the motion that I made, specific to the movement for next year. And by next year, I'm talking about 24, 25. Right now, I feel that we are on continuous improvement in lots of ways, but we have a lot of HR needs. It is May the 9th. Tomorrow is a very big day in our district to know how many staff will be joining us for the next year and where we're going to work together on all these continuous improvements. to ask our board to consider such a drastic change is not difficult for us to consider. I support a lot of what is being presented. The concern I have is in the implementation in such a short amount of time. I feel like as a parent, I am making decisions for the summer, for the next school year, and my wheels are in motion. And I know our district's wheels are in motion for that too. It would take a stop and a reverse on so many things that we would lose traction and momentum. That's my hesitation and reservation about this proposal. And I really feel that the board addressed this last month and to reconsider in other ways. Dr. Cave, there's lots of things to consider for the betterment of our students in small ways, but this facility plan, as large as it is, to engage in so many decisions in such a short amount of time feels like it's ill-timed.
We've had this talk for ever since the first part of the year, if I ain't mistaken. And, to say just a short period of time to do something, if we keep waiting and keep putting things off, when are we ever going to do anything? It's time. We got someone bringing something to us that makes a whole lot of sense, and we going to deny that? I mean, we going to always draw back on something that's making progress. You can't make progress if you stand still. You'll never go anywhere.
Dr. Cave, I appreciate the additional information and the new insight that your staff has brought to us, and ideas about how we could, even have Northside work, since that's a school that we would, be adding a lot of students to, and it already has capacity basically when we opened it. I would like for us to consider that the motion is headed in the right direction with the information that you're bringing us, because part of the motion says utilize input from the staff, stakeholders, parents, our community, our taxpayers, our parents. So we're moving in the right direction to bring these plans to a place that we can talk about what you're wanting to add at Northside. I'd like to be on a team that go visit some of the districts in our area that are adding new career centers in Jasper and creating, new things in Estill and Hampton, so that we'll be on the cutting edge of what our students need to be prepared for aeronautics and the careers that are right around us. So I would like for you to continue to move forward and follow the policies that we are given as a board that follow the state code 1976. We have two in our binder, policy FA and policy FB, that help with setting goals for facilities and for facility planning. And just to highlight, as a board member, it says we're to seek input from the community in determining the long-range plans that you're giving us, looking forward to TCTC in 5 years, with the programs that we could add, and the alternative that we could get those students seeing the careers and the possibilities that they have, so they have hope for their future. And with policy FA, the board seeks to provide the highest type of educational environment for students at the lowest possible expenditure of public funds. So we're bound by those things to bring in that information you're bringing us, but we have to have the community and the parents and the taxpayers, seeing and hearing and giving us their input.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments?
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Cave, the only reservation I really have about your plan is the use of the sixth grade academy for the secondary. And the reason I say that is I've spoke to several SROs and looking at it from a safety standpoint, I think their concern is being able to keep those students separated from the other students at the middle school. The only other option I think we could even look into would possibly be the adult ed building. But beyond that, I could go along with it. I just think maybe we talk to the SROs and see what their idea would be about being able to keep those students separated, because we don't want to put our students that are in the middle school back in a bad environment where they're having problems, because when those children come out of that building, the best we could do is put a fence up, and we know what fences are good for. they basically walk around, climb over, whatever they do, and then they're in the middle school, and we don't want to cause a problem there. So, besides that, for the most part, I could agree with the rest of it.
Thank you, Mr. Stivinger. I will talk with the SROs. I did talk with Mr. Blakeney about how we could make sure that the two were not commingling, about how we could deliver the food. They already get their own transportation because they have to be dropped off. The only children they are guaranteed transportation are our children with special needs. We talked about an area that they could have some outside activity because they do need to go and have outside activity. So we've looked at some of those things and the way to barricade the door to be able to lock it off. So I will talk with the SROs, but thank you for your support of that. Okay.
Dr. Cave, how many people do we have in our adult ed program?
You know, I really don't have that answer as to how many are in, you mean how many come in and out through the day?
Yes, ma'am.
Enrolled? I don't have that information right off the top of
Do we
my
know?
head.
I'm not asking you for a strict number.
I don't even want to guess.
Okay.
But I can get that information for you by reaching out to Mr. Horvath.
Okay.
And I can have that for you before.
I just wonder what Mr. Salvender said. I wonder if we could somehow relocate adult ed, and then you could have your alternative school where it is now, and then have the elementary where adult ed currently is. And that way we
I
could
think-
move forward next year with the elementary alternative school.
If we could do that, I would advance the position that I would need to switch the two. I would need the elementary over where
Sure.
Cass is and have the additional secondary in the larger
Absolutely.
area.
I think it's something just worth looking into, even if we, the three mobile units that you talked about, if we drop them out here somewhere and put adult ed in those or something, you know what I mean?
Funny you would say that, because I had a staff member say that to me today. Can we put the mobile units out here to be able to add that?
Whoever it is, they're a genius person, whoever.
Well, I'm sure she's in this room, so she's listening. All right. Thank you so very much. That concludes my report.
Thank you. We will now go to Human Resource, Mr. Murdock.
At this time, I ask Ms. Hamilton to come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everyone?
Good.
Good. So just wanted to make you guys aware that we have issued 286 contracts since April 17th. We have received 203, and all of my fingers and toes and everything else is crossed that we'll get the final batch by 11:59 tomorrow. Of course, you know, we have some of our educators who will be participating in the May 10th No Sign campaign, so they will go virtually and sign their contracts as promised. I have submitted to you by location, and I hope you have the updated numbers per location, just the vacancies that we currently have at each location. This is without numbers for contracts not returned, okay? And also, we have not sent out our classified agreements or LOAs. We kind of phase those. We want to get contracts back, kind of know our needs, offer LOAs, get those back, and then send out classified agreements. Any questions with the progression?
We know that by next Tuesday, the 16th, like, when do you, I
For
know-
certified?
No, but you talked about agreements, so LOAs and that sort of thing. Will we have a list of those?
Yes, to bring to you. I'll bring those
Okay.
to you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ms. Hamilton, this chart that we have that says projected vacancies, if I'm not mistaken, last time we got it was the number 57 or something like that, 54, somewhere around there. Do you remember?
I didn't do a total. I just added this total, so I didn't do a total the last time.
Okay, regardless. So my question is, of the 203 contracts that have already been returned, those are factored into these vacancies?
They are not, because they're not vacant. These are people who we know aren't returning. That's in this table.
Right. So, okay, let me
sorry.
reword what I was saying. Of the 203 contracts that you already have back, if people said they're not coming back, that is currently reflected in this chart that you just
That's
gave
correct.
us. So the only other changes would be the additional 83.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, of course, we want to get data as to why are people wanting to leave, separate, just so we'll know how to plan in our department for retention purposes. So some information, of course, we have several of our internationals whose visas unfortunately have expired, and so they have to return to their home countries, and that is a significant number of educators, if I'm being fully transparent. Also, we have a number of educators retiring just from the profession. They've put in their years, and they are done. So we commend them. We have
We celebrate them next week.
We celebrate them next week. That's my next slide. We have some educators who have expressed, that they just need a change in venue due to either marriage, divorce, or separation. Also, we have some of our younger educators who are saying, the cost of living is just way too much. I got to go back to my parents or to live with a family member. And then we have more than usual educators changing their career field. So that was interesting to me. Then some are leaving to get closer to home. So if they live in the Dorchester, Charleston, Beaufort area, they're staying in those areas and not commuting. Also, I've had about 4 to 5 people say that, I'm already maxed out on the pay scale. I'm going to go to another district, get a higher earning for retirement purpose. I'm already at year 25. So they just want to go for earnings purposes. And then, of course, we got a lack of support from the community to the schools. And then we've had people calling into the office to say, could you please withdraw my application. We've had interviews, made offers, only to have declines. And so when asked, they would say, school board discord and the lack of support or respect perception for all employee types. And so just wanted to give y'all every single reason why we noted in our office why we are not retaining or recruiting, attracting educators.
Ms. Hamilton, thank you very much for this, and I just want to say, and I want to repeat it multiple times, in this list that you just gave us, not one single mention is there of pay, other than for those who have maxed out and are trying to get their retirement. So often we hear the reason why people leave our district is because of pay, and I have beat on this table saying that it's not because of pay while people are leaving. So I appreciate that in this, that pay is not the primary reason why people are leaving. There are things in here that as a school board, it gives us stuff that we can work on to hopefully increase retention.
Sure.
And not have to worry about the pay being one of the primary factors.
Another aha for me, last year compared to this year, we did not have, with the current data that I have, not to say that it is not to come, but no one mentioned separating because of administrators or assistant administrators or anything of that nature. So just wanted to note that on record. Of course, I presented our plausible, or what I foresee as plausible solutions to our vacancies, and that, of course, is to adhere to the accreditation standards provided by the South Carolina Department of Education for teacher-to-student ratios, and then to really intently explore the option of creative scheduling at our high school, and then continue the partnership that we have with iTutor and our contracted services for special ed. Not ideal, but to fill vacancies and have a certified teacher in front of children delivering content, that is a solution. So I'm extremely excited to announce that next board meeting, we will be recognizing our retirees at a banquet. Our banquet will be held in Training Room 1 at 5 o'clock, so everyone is invited to attend. We will recognize all of our retirees and give them a gift at 6 o'clock p.m. right here in the boardroom. And then in addition to that, we will recognize our Teacher of the Years again, and then we will announce the top 3 candidates who are finalists for Teacher of the Year. Any questions?
This is a question in reference to your report, but it might be one answered by Dr. Cave. When will we know more about the creative scheduling options at the high school?
They're working on the creative schedule. I can't give you a date that, when that will be finished. We're trying to wrap it up by the end of May since the contract ends. So I'll probably have more information for you in June.
Okay.
But right now, we're looking at the 9th graders maybe being on the block, not on the block, on the 7-period day, and 10, 11, and 12 being on the block, but we're just visiting that, looking at the number of students that we could accommodate.
The question, because it's HR related too, but also in reference to Dr. Cave, the reports about the 9th grade offerings for the finance and also for geometry. That's why I was tying
Yes.
that all in together, and interested to know, I feel like 9th graders obviously already have an individual graduation plan scheduled,
Yes.
so their courses are already chosen, and all that changing and rearranging, just trying to give an anticipation for our parents to
Right,
know.
well, you'll have to take the personal finance. It's supposed to begin in 9th grade, but there'll be a grandfather way to work it in
Okay.
so that they are able to get that by the time they get out, if we are not able to work it in the first year.
Good to know.
Okay?
Thank you.
Yes.
And I just want to add, just to Mr. Irwin's point, when Ms. McDonald was up, teacher turnover directly correlates to student achievement. So the more teachers we can retain, I solely and strongly believe that student achievement will be directly impacted in a positive manner.
Ms. Hamilton, I'm glad you said that because I wanted to make one more final comment about teacher and staff retention, just how important it is. And I know you and your office are working on that. But we have got to come up with ways in order to keep the good teachers that we get in our district. The newly named South Carolina Teacher of the Year, Ms. Renee Atkinson, was a teacher in Colleton County School District just a few years ago. We have got to find a way when we get these good quality teachers here to keep them. And I know we have the Teach for America, and they're only here for a couple of years and stuff, but this board, I'm sure all of us would agree that we will do whatever we can to kind of help move along that teacher retention so we can keep the really good ones that we get here, instead of us training them up and then letting them go somewhere else.
Right. Any other questions for me? You got a question for me, Ms. Jones?
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Murdock. I will now have finance, Ms. Frobel.
Ms. Barrett, we're anxiously awaiting the second reading of our budget for next year.
Thank you, Ms. Strobel. Good evening to the board.
Good evening.
Hopefully I won't be before you so long tonight. First, I just want to go over about the budget. What is our goal for the budget? A balanced budget is a budget wherein your expected revenue for the year equals your expected spending, thus leaving zero in your budget. So if you see a zero at the bottom, you know you're in balance. Revenue for the year equals your expected expenditure, such as there is no budget deficit or surplus. So that means if I have decreased my expense by $100,000, I must decrease my revenue by $100,000. Everything has to balance with our budget. And then I want to go over some of the historics funding for the district, because the district hasn't always been funded the way that it's funded now. Before 2006, we had our primary residents, like our homes, we were taxed on that. And people paid tax on their home, and that went to the school operation. But in 2006, the South Carolina legislature passed Act 388, and how they overhauled the property tax laws. One of its key provisions was 100% exemption on the market value of homeowner-occupied school property taxes, the market value of owner-occupied home from the school property tax, also called our operating millage. Since 2006, most property most property homeowners bear no obligation to pay school operating millage on property they occupy as their primary residence. As a result, South Carolina had one of the lowest effective tax rate on our owner-occupied residential property in South Carolina, but it has an effect on how we get funding for the district. So you say, well, how do the district actually get funds? The district get our funds primarily from the state, because the state enacted a 1% statewide sales tax to help fund public school. So that means that there's one piece of pie that the state has, 1%. And that piece of pie is divided by all the school districts based on different factors that they have involved in getting to how we get funding. So that means that if you buy, it's a 1% sales tax that they use. So if you go shopping and do a lot of shopping, Amazon, whatever, that increase our sales tax, and that's how we get paid by the district. And it's also based on index of tax paying ability. So how much you get from the pie depends on how poor you are, how poor the district is, how much the district can afford to pay. So that's how much we get from the pie. I was just actually reading an article today from Dorchester 2. A school board member said that Act 388, this amendment mandates school district funding must come from items such as cars, business, but not a taxpayer primary home. And he said this is one thing that the state did that helped underfund schools. So that really, by adding Act 388, it doesn't help the school district any. Any new homes that are built here, are built in the county, we don't get any property tax for it. If we get businesses come in, that's who primary fund our school district. Our 10 top school funding from the businesses is SC&G is one of the top two that fund, is the top paying taxpayer in the district. And of course, I'm glad for that because we pay a lot of utilities bills in the school. And then you had Coastal Electric is number 3, and then you have Central Electric. All of these other companies, they invest in our school as far as property taxes. They keep our school district operating millage going. Some school district, the General Assembly has authorized a certain school district to impose a sales and use tax within their county. And most of them do a 1% local taxes within their county. We got district like, if you go to the Department of Revenue, it'll tell you all the district like Cherokee, Chester, Jasper, Darlington, Clarington, Lexington, Lee, Dillon, Horry, Charleston, and Marlboro. These ones, they have an extra 1% that help fund the school districts in their community. So, because based on our index of tax-paying ability, they give us 75% of the funding for our operation, and then the district are responsible for coming up with the other 25% in order to fund us. But as far as our capital project funding, you say, wait a minute, do I pay property tax on home to build a new school? Yes, we do, because each school district has to take care of their own facilities. We have to take care of everything. So the capital project funding source that we get comes from homeowners' property taxes. So, and that's for us to take care of the schools' buildings, maintaining the buildings, all of our capital projects. But it does not take care of salaries. It does not take care of supplies or overhead, and any of those things. So Act 388 did not eliminate property tax to pay for the debt obligation on bonds issued to the public school, but it did eliminate the monies that we get from homeowners' property taxes. Like your primary residence, you will see a credit on your homeowner's bill for the residence tax. Any question about that? Okay. and I wanted to go over the approved budget over the fiscal years. Okay, in fiscal year 20, the final budget was $46,138,074. But the approved budget was also $46,138,074. In 2021, the final budget was $45,066,596. But we did a continuing resolution. Continuing resolution meaning that, yeah, we know we had those expenditures, but we're not going to go with the expenditures. We have to go with the prior year budget. So we adopted the prior year budget. So that made it look like expenditures didn't go up, but really it did go up. And matter of fact, I wasn't here as a CFO in that year, but I was here. We were actually $1.6 million deficit right there in 2021. In 2022, the final budget was $50,370,770. But the approved budget was $47,492,244. We had a shortfall of $2,878,526. Where did the step short went to? It went into ESSA. I know that time we had Mr. Tyndall, and we had a consultant, a financial consultant that year. He came in and he saw the budget and the deficit, and he was going to cut vacancies. But all our vacancies mostly are teachers, so you couldn't cut vacancies. So we were very happy to have the ESSA to balance our budget that year. It didn't mean the expenses didn't go up. It meant that we just deferred it, not delete the expense. So in 2023, which is last year, the final budget was really $53,239,100, but the approved budget was $51,249,008. We had a shortfall that year of $2,741,718. Again, it didn't mean that expenses was deleted. It was just deferred until the next year. Today, we are still have a shortfall, but we are at $55,294,028. We have a shortfall of $878,526. So I am glad to say that even though we know we're not where we need to be, we have cut that shortfall from $2 million down to $878,526 from our budget. So we've cut down on the shortfall.
Ms. Barrett, while you're on that slide, I might have missed it, so if I did, just correct me. That year, 2021, where we didn't have the ESSER and we had a 1.6 shortfall, how did we balance that year?
We didn't balance that year. We did the prior year budget, which is called a continuing resolution. So we didn't even have to think about balancing that year. We did a continuing resolution. It was no balance. And then the next year, we did have ESSER, so we didn't have to worry about balancing. So we keep kicking the can forward until now, you know, we're here with it. So the budget funding source for fiscal year 23-24. Okay. Federal funding source give us about $75,000, which is about less than 1% of our budget, general fund budget. The local property taxes, which is mostly come from the businesses, cars, and everything like that, not property of the homeowners, is 34% of our budget. But our state, which is our 1% tax, give us 66% of our budget. So most of our budget, we are funded by the state. So we are at the mercy of the state. If the state decreased some of our money, which we did this year, we had a $615,000 decrease back in February. And I went to SCASA, and we have a representative that goes to all of the general assemblies, and she fights for the school district. And one thing she asked us, and she said, most of the school district had a big funding decrease in their budget, but we had no representative from the local level that came and fight for the school district. And could anybody raise their hand? If any of your people came, nobody raised their hand except for the other district who did not get a decrease in this funding. Because they're saying that we have to fight for our schools. We got to fight for our funds that we're getting.
Spirit, if you need some fighters.
Huh?
If you need fighters.
We need fighters. I mean, we need it. And then for our salary. The salary in fringe, like I said before, the salary in this budget is $48,687,821. That's 88% of our budget goes to salary and fringe. And out of that 88%, 55% of that is instructional staff. 55% goes to teachers and other instructional staff. And 11% of that is PBIS people, teachers' assistants, and other people who work in the school district. So that's 66% of our budget out of the 88% goes to people who touch children most of the time, teach children. And then you have the general fund budget. Fiscal year '23, it was $51,240,908. Fiscal year 2024, it's now projecting to be $55,294,028. That's an increase of $4,053,120. How do we get there? Well, we had some revenue increases also for the same amount. The local revenue went up about $1 million. The state went up $3 million. And federal went up the same, which give us a total of $4,053,120. But how did we get to all this high expenses? Well, in 2021, we had a step increase. And I can't really talk to that because I was not there. But I know we had health insurance increase of $131,574. Retirement increase, $907,971. In 2022, we gave the teachers a step, $1,000 plus a step. And I know in 2021, our non-certified staff, classified staff, was 5 years behind. Because what we did, when we couldn't balance the budget, we balanced it we didn't pay the classified people their steps. We didn't give them anything. So we were 5 years behind. 2023 and 21, we gave $1,000 plus a steps. So that made our health insurance went up $588,930. Our retirement went up $695,250. And in 2023, this year here, we have required to give our teachers a $4,000 plus a step, plus the health insurance went up. So we went up $403,488,000. The retirement went up $1 million. And we had to roll up funds that used to be paid at 100% out of state fund, which called our at-risk fund. They rolled that up into the general fund. So that means all those expenses that was in a state fund had to be rolled up into the general fund. So that made our expenses up more than what it really was. In 2024, we're looking at doing a $2,500 plus the step for the teachers, $197,883 for state health insurance, and retirement over $1 million. And this year again, they came back to us and said, we're going to roll up some more items, with some more salaries that was paid out of the state fund. We're going to roll that up again, and we're going to put it into the general fund. And that was $700,987. So that may look like the district did all of these increases, but really, everything that happened was mandated by the state, not the district. The only thing the district do is try to give the classified a step, but we don't have to do that, but we do have to do the mandates. So the state fund that was mandated was at risk. That amount was $971,738.25, and we were paying 18 FTEs out of that. So that means they have to go into the general fund now to make the general fund look like we increased the budget a whole lot, but we really didn't. And then this year here, they roll up student health and fitness, Fund 937, they roll up student health and fitness for nurses, and they roll up EDA career specialists. And that was $700,986.78. And that was 9 FTEs that we had to put into the general fund. Okay? So that was a total roll-up in the last 2 years was $1.6 million and 27 FTEs that had to come to the general fund. And then we had a salary study that was implemented from 2022, 2023. Remember, our classified people were non-certified people, classified people were 5 steps behind. It costs about $210,000 to bring up a step for classified people, plus the 31.46% fringe on top of that. So we brought everybody up to where they need to be. So all our classified people are up to date with their steps, and all our administrators are up to date with their steps. And we got to remember, student enrollment. By 2016 to 2022, we have lost 730 students. So that also affects our budgets.
Ms. Barrett, if I may interrupt for just one moment. Do we have a District 130, Day 135 count?
We did, but I don't have it with me.
I don't have it with me. I can get it to you, though.
Okay. If we could get that on
Yes.
a regular basis, I know 135 and it's Day 45, those are the 2 increments. If those can be consistently reported to the board, just to keep an eye on that enrollment.
Yes, we definitely do, because I know if our enrollment went down 135 day, guess what? We're going to lose more money. Because they change, they give you your funding based on your 45 day, and then they come back again and do it on your 135 day. Okay. So that's when funding is allocated.
So just for clarity, you want just the 135, you want 45? How often do you want it, so I can make sure we get that to you?
Well, once we have 135 now, but when we have a 45-day count in the fall, if that can also be reported just for tracking purposes.
Okay, thank you.
That would be good. And then, so what's in the budget? Because we definitely mainly just script the budget down to the bare minimum because we couldn't afford any more. But we had to do the $2,500 for the teachers in one step. We had to bring the $2 million instructional salaries and fringe that was in ESSA. We brought that $2 million back into the general fund now, so that those positions are now funded by the general fund. Okay, we have one step for classified employees, which equates to about 2%. And then we have one step for administrators, which equates to 1% of their salary. And we have bus drivers increase of 25% for their salaries. We had a 1% increase in retirement, a 25% increase in the bus drivers, I said that, and a 3.7% increase in health insurance. And then we had roll-up funds that was paid out of the state fund and into the general fund at 75%. Because every time they roll us up and put it into the general fund, that means they cut funding from us. And just got information on, I think, Monday, that we thought we was going to have the governor to sign the bill for the approved budget, but we don't know yet. They're looking like they may go into another continuing resolution. So if they go into the continuing resolution, that means that they're going to pay us based on the year 22-23 year. So if they go into continuing resolution, I guess we're going to have to decide whether or not we're going to increase our salary for our teachers this year, or whether or not we're going to wait until they go into continuing resolution and do it next year. Okay? The good thing about it is that we have a good fund balance. That's one thing that has increased for us, which is good, is our fund balance in 2 years. We have increased our fund balance by $5.7 million in 2 years. That is unheard of for us at this district, because our fund balance is normally like $4 million, and we're good if we get 5. And our expenditures normally runs from $4.5 million to $5 million a month. And guess what? When we don't do it, good thing about it, we didn't have to do a TAN this year, because when capital projects are done, when federal are done, and all of those expenditures are done, the general fund has to pay those expenditures first. And then we got to wait to get reimbursed for our monies back. And if we don't have any money in our general fund to take care of those expenditures, we have to do a TAN, which costs the district more money. But because we got a nice fund balance and we want to continue that, we don't have to go out worry about borrowing a TAN this year. So like we normally don't receive any of our money, because right now March is basically the last time that we receiving property taxes from the county. So we gotta really fund everything from March until September, when they have the collection again, but we really don't receive it until October. So from March to October, we are relying on our general fund balance to get us through the rest of the year until we can get more money coming in. Any questions?
Ms. Barrett, where there's federal appearing for 75,000 as a funding source, but then there are other places where federal is a revenue, this in the millions.
Because the revenue that's the 75,000 is general fund. That's money that's coming to the general fund. The other federal revenues are like ESSA funds. You got Title I funds and all of that fund. That money don't mingle with the general fund. That's on their own.
What are the federal funds that come into the general?
That's called SDAC. That's like when people it's a Medicaid program they have, and if we do certain people, if they touch certain things, we get a little bit of money by going in and reporting the salaries, and they get a percentage of salary of people who actually touch something to do with Medicaid. So it's not a whole lot of money, but it is something.
Other question I had, on page 6, when you were showing us that the salaries and fringe is 88% of the budget. I wanted to compare, and you can, when we refer to this sheet, I just wanted to compare that salary and fringe to what we have projected here as total salary and fringe.
Right. As you can see, our teacher, as you can see, our fringe for this fiscal year, 2024, our salaries is $33,154,237. But if you look at our fringe, it's $15 million. If you add those two up together, that's how you come up with the $48 million. And as you can see, our teachers, and our not only teachers, but instructional salaries went up $2.2 million. We did some working on positions, and we was able to utilize cuts and different things like that, not from people, but from vacancies that we looked at in prior years that we may not have need. So we were able to cut down a lot. Like for district administration, we was able to cut down some on that. We was able to cut down on the bus drivers, because Mr. Bradley, how we came about changing from 80 bus drivers to 60, we was able to cut that. We cut the instructional supply budget by 10%. School board, it looked like your budget got cut, but we work along with the board chair, and what she did is that she moved out the expense for the audit. She put it into my finance budget, so because it's more of a finance expenses, because if you go over, it won't be on your budget. So we moved that on there.
But your budget did increase.
Yes, because of that. So it
Thank
didn't
you for
really increase,
explaining
right?
that.
It didn't really increase.
Thank you.
Okay, and of course, everything else is basically the same. We increased your budget because of for the extra attorney fees. We increased your budget for that. We increased your budget also for the sort of membership dues and that sort that was needed to be increased. So we increased your budget by that. Other than that, everything in the budget is just basic. We didn't put any incentives there. We cut out all of that. We cut out all the bonuses. There's nothing in the budget, the bare necessity. It's in the budget, and if you look on your last page, you see a 0. That means we have a balanced budget. But next year, we still got to remember that we are balancing the budget by indirect costs from ESSA. And ESSA indirect costs is going away after 2024. So we're going to have to really, really work on this budget, because the budget just don't stop with us adopting a budget tonight, whenever we adopt it. A budget has to be worked on every day of the year, because our goal is to make sure that we are in compliance, so the state won't take us over and anything like that. So we have to make sure we work on this budget all the time, because next year we're going to have to come up with $878,000 to balance this budget. And there's a lot of uncertainties that's out there. We have the charter school. We don't know how that's going to affect us. We don't know how our student enrollment is going to affect us, but we know what we have to do. And as soon as we adopt a budget, we'll start working on it July 1st to make sure that we get it balanced by time it needs to be by next budget year.
Ms. Barrett and maybe Ms. Hamilton, in this budget that we have before us, are there any added positions? Are we adding any positions? Are we creating any new positions this year? That was, no, okay. And we're using the 800 and something, excuse me, Ms. Barrett, out of ESSER, that's how we're coming up with the balanced budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Down from the $2.7 million, we're down. So I think we did really well by bringing $2 million worth of salary back into the general fund, and still, we're not there yet, and we know that, but we're working on it really hard. But that's what we did, and we hope we continue to work on it and continue to decrease it. Because our goal as administration goal is to make sure that we have a budget that we don't have to depend on ESSER, depend on any other funding sources, but for us to depend on ourselves to make sure we can do our budget and be balanced budget.
Here's just what I want to say real quick, Ms. Barrett. We keep saying that we now have a balanced budget, but with our revenue going up, that doesn't mean that our expenses have to go up, right? It could be acceptable for us to have a budget less than the revenue that we're projected to bring in. And here's my issue, here's why I say that. We keep talking about the 135-day count. We keep talking about, you just said a few moments ago, if we lose students, we lose money. We do have this looming threat of a charter school coming that I think we all fear may diminish our student enrollment. So I appreciate the work that's been done on the budget, and I appreciate the cuts that have been made. But I think we really need to continue to work on this budget before we get to a point of a vote to approve it. We need to try to get down these numbers as much as we can, just because we're not sure what's going to happen. We don't know if the charter school is going to affect us or how much it's going to affect us. So I know there have been some cuts, and I appreciate that, but I'm not sure that we should count that done. Maybe we should continue to look to see those areas where we can squeeze things. And while we do have some ESSER money left, maybe there are some things that we can pull out of our general fund budget and maybe put in ESSER if they're going to be one-time things that we can use that ESSER money for. So I appreciate the work that you and your group have done, but I would just urge that we continue to work to try to decrease those expenditures.
Well, we just met with Dr. Reed today about the ESSER funds, and what she told us, there is no money in ESSER. We had to come up with the agreement that we need $1 million for us to do iReady for teachers, and we have that in ESSER, but we're not going to be able to put it in ESSER anymore because we don't have any more money. The ESSER fund is depleted. ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. Everything except for what we have in the facilities. That's the only thing that's really left. Everything else is gone.
Everything else is allocated.
Right, it's already allocated.
Correct, but those are two different things. $17 million in ESSER 3 is allocated. $17 million in ESSER 3 is not gone. I'm afraid this board is going to have to go back and look at the remaining ESSER 3 money, and we're going to have to reprioritize some things. The plans are going to have to change based on some of these needs that we have, and that's just the bottom line of it.
Okay.
So looking at the ESSER 3 money would mean cutting staff. There'll be several things that's already allocated in that, board member Irwin. There are several things that we have placed in there already. Technology, there's security. We would have to kind of decide what we're going to cut for the good of the group.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I said. That's something that I thought Dr. Reed was here.
She had to teach tonight.
Sure.
so-
I think we really need to have a presentation from Dr. Reed about where that ESSER 3 money is and kind of what things are allocated, so we can kind of look and make those, we're going to have to make some tough decisions. So maybe even at our next board meeting, Madam Chair, if we could get a report from Dr. Reed so she can kind of let us know where those things are and what is allocated, and then this board can go back and look and see what changes need to be made.
Okay.
I
Yes.
think that's a great idea. Also, I was going to ask about the deadlines that we know, Dr. Cave, you mentioned the September and December of 2024 as deadlines for ESSER.
They are 2024 for deadlines for ESSER. So I just want to be clear. So the board is going to make recommendations for how the ESSER money is spent. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that so I can begin doing some work,
I think that has to be an option. I think it has to be on the table.
because that's federal funding. Okay.
Correct.
But that brings me to the next question, which is, I know that we have provided an outline, and we had to, I think as recent as November of last year, as to how we were spending those funds. Is that correct, Dr. King?
Can you repeat that again?
We had to provide a federal update as to how we were spending our ESSER 3 funds as recent, I think, as November.
We did, and we've already submitted that spending plan. We submit a spending plan. If we're going to make some changes to how that money is allocated, we would have to
Update.
do an update to our spending plan, which we are getting ready to make another update now,
That would be helpful.
because we
I
had
think,
to make some changes.
Understood. So if we could get,
Mm-hmm.
as we get that report, and maybe we get that as early as next week from Dr. Reed on the specifics of what's remaining, but also when those updates are due, so that if there has to be changes to it, that the board's aware of that.
Okay, well, we'll be more than happy to make you aware of how that money is allocated.
Thank you.
I wonder if we're hearing reports at our next meeting where we will be asked to approve or accept a second reading, or might we need a work session where we can review, not that we needed to make all the decisions, but to be informed and make a wise choice when we're voting.
Is that question to me or Ms. Barrett? Are you asking for entertainment of a work session so we can have some further discussion, Board Member Strebel?
Yes, ma'am. I
Okay.
still have questions. That's why I asked for the second work session before we got to this point, and I'm glad we had that. Went from first reading to second reading. I appreciate the work that's been done, but I still can't see the full picture of how we're implementing our vision and our goals to meet the needs of our students.
Okay.
Okay, so if we want another work session, we'll have to look at calendar, and I don't mind doing that. But you'll need to give a little more information so that I can be prepared and work with the staff on how you want us to show you how we're spending the money to meet our vision, our mission, and our goals, because
I'm the only one needing that as a math person, and the person that wants to raise my hand knowing what I'm voting for next week, I can meet privately, with Ms. Barrett. She's opened her door many times to me, but I'm asking my colleagues.
So basically, what you're asking for them to revisit, and if there's possible, if we have to do cutting as far as positions, staffing, you're willing to make those adjustments as well?
I don't know why that comes up. We have said multiple times, I have said multiple times, I don't want there to be any cuts to staff or anything. There are still other areas in this budget where money could be cut. And it's not up to me to make cuts in the budget, but just for instance, we went back under instructional supply requests, and it looks like, just by some quick math, we asked them to deduct 10%.
We did.
So there is still places in the budget, maybe we say 15%, maybe we say 20%, maybe we find other places in the budget. I just think the numbers that have been presented to us right now, and according to the agenda is for second reading, we are still over. We're having to pull money out of ESSER in order to balance the expenditures. We're looking at going up, I think, another $4 million. And I just think with this looming charter school, if what Ms. Barrett just said is accurate and our state house can't get it together and they have to go on a continuing resolution, that means our $55 million budget that we have projected, or revenue that we have projected, goes back to $51 million. That's a big thing that we need to be prepared for, and we need to look at now by making some hard decisions and making some tough financial decisions to make sure that if that happens, we're not in a state of complete chaos.
That is correct. We do go back to the 51 million, but the new budget includes the projection for the increase on every cell. Am I correct, Ms.
Yes,
Barrett?
it's
So
$2,500 on each cell.
Right.
The increase in the state retirement, the increase in the state insurance, all of those are in that factor too.
So we would do the continuing resolution based on the old budget, and none of those things would take effect.
Well, normally what happens is that the state, they just do a continuing resolution, and then they probably will reconvene again after
that.
July 1st. And then when they do that, they will adopt a budget, and then we can adopt our budget.
And make those changes.
And make those changes, yes.
I just want to state, just for me, from Board Member Irwin, I would like to see the budget continue to be trimmed and the number to continue to be squeezed. These are tough economic times that we're in. We're going to have to make some tough decisions. I also want to state, I do not want any staff members, I'm not going to vote for a budget where any staff member is cut or reduced or the position is eliminated. We're going to protect our staff members. They're doing everything they can for our kids and for our district. We want to value them. So I do not want any cuts to come from salary. I understand that's 88% of our budget. That's pretty typical for most corporations, but there are still places in this budget where we can cut and squeeze some money.
We'll go back and look at the budget and see where we can make some additional changes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have one question before Ms. Barrett leaves, if I may. I just want to note that, thank you very much for the reductions that they're noted from the first presentation of the budget on the 18th of April. Ms. Simmons, I know you worked with our school board budget, and that was decreased from 103 to 90,000. Thank you for that. So it's a decrease of $12,000. I wanted to ask, there was action of the board to put into the budget the 7 cell phones for next year. I want to make sure that.
Oh, we have a cell phone account that we already have. We're going to just absorb it in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that won't be reflective in the school board
Right,
budget?
we already got enough.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So that we're clear, are we going to have the additional work session? I don't think we decided that, or did you all decide that? I didn't hear that piece. Did we finalize that?
Just from my point of view, I agree with Ms. Strobel. I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and we would benefit from that.
So you want the work session before the 16th? I just want to get the date so we can work on it, so we can get that done, because we're on Tuesday.
Sure. If I may suggest, I know that we have some other special called board meetings later in the month. So I don't know that we have to have the budget ready by June the 1st if we were to
Right.
put it in the newspaper, if everything worked well in the state.
If everything were with the state, yes.
So we do have a couple other dates that have special called board meetings that we might be able to attach the work session to that. Those were for the superintendent evaluation, the 23rd or June 1st, and so that may give a little bit more time.
No problem. Those, you made a decision for those to begin at 5, so do you want to work, I'll do whatever it is you'd like to be able to do, but do you want the work session before the evaluation, then the work session? If we attach it to the May 23rd the May 23rd date.
I think it would have to be before.
Yeah, open session before the
Okay,
executive.
all right, so,
I think.
We're saying budget.
so we're going to work on, go ahead.
I just want to make sure, so budget workshop at 5 and then superintendent.
Budget workshop at 5 and then the evaluation.
That sounds good.
Okay.
And that would mean we'd adjust
We'll
our.
attach it to the 23rd.
And that would mean we'd adjust our agenda for next week, that we wouldn't be taking action on second reading, correct?
Correct.
Correct. Any question?
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. That's
Thank
a
you.
Very good report.
Thank you.
Are we going over capital projects?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, capital projects. That's where we, we started off with about 6.5 million. We went back, we looked at everything. Anything that we could have put into a bond that we just did, we put into the bond for technology. So now we're at 2.9 million, which is within our capacity that we have.
Ms. Barrett, I need clarification on a couple of things, please. Under CCMS, there's $25,000 for a wireless intercom system.
I'm sorry, I can't speak onto that because normally Mr. Blakeney does all of that.
Okay.
So I really don't know.
Well, because
What was the question again, if you don't
the
mind?
wireless intercom system for CCMS for $25,000?
What about it?
Well, when we got the building study, they said the intercom was fine. So why are we spending $25,000 on the intercom system?
I have to ask Mr. Blakeney. We had discussed that, and the school felt as though they needed a additional intercom system because you could not hear it everywhere, regardless of what the facility study came back. That's what the school felt the needs were.
Okay.
So I will speak with Mr. Blakeney about that.
Yeah, again, this is kind of the same thing I said earlier. Just because we have $2.9 million doesn't mean we have to spend $2.9 million. We need to make sure that we're spending our money on things that are needed. Under Cottageville Elementary, there are two different things that are very similar. It's a Color Pro Ultra and a Color Pro Diamond. They're both for the exact same expense of $10,000. Is that a duplicate or is that two different things?
Give me a moment to be able to get to that. It's under Cottageville Elementary.
Yes, ma'am.
Is where you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you say what those two are again?
It says Color Pro Ultra and the Color Pro Diamond. They're both for the exact same number, so I don't know if that's a duplicate or...
Oh, that actually could be an error. I'll double check on that. Thank you for picking that up.
Okay. And the last one that I have is under athletics, $60,000 for a football stadium banner. What
Yes.
is that?
It's a banner that hangs across the back, the displays. It hangs across the back of the stadium so that when you drive in, you're able to see it hanging as you drive in. It's for motivation and those types of things for the community as well as the students. Lots of stadiums have those. So that was one request that they made. If you are making a suggestion, I take that into consideration and talk with athletics.
I'm just asking for clarification. That just seemed
Okay.
like a lot for something that was listed as a banner. But my concern is when we look at this 2.9 million in capital projects, and you just kind of do a cursory look over of this, how much of this impacts the safety and the security of our schools? How much of this impacts the learning loss kind of stuff that we're facing? And I know capital projects money is a little bit different because it's facilities, but I just want to make sure that we're spending, $2.9 million is a lot of money. I want to make sure that we're spending it and getting the most bang out of our buck to make sure that we're doing all of the things to improve as much as we can.
So are you requesting for us to go back and give you a breakdown on how much of it affects learning loss and how much of it affects the other portion?
No, ma'am. I'm just simply stating, I hope that as we continue to look at this and the budget, that we make sure that those things are preeminent in our priorities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
If I may, two questions that I have that can be brought back as we look at this. budget. One, I do see that there is the addition of the middle school bleachers. I'm assuming that's for the gym bleachers, which is terrific, and I very much appreciate that. But I did speak with Coach Austin about the addition of the football at the middle school area. Those bleachers are in need. So I wanted to add that for consideration. But also a question about the resurfacing of the bus parking lot, and I think I asked this question too before, is I know that that's the area, if I'm looking at the middle school to the left, and that we omitted the parking lot to the right, more commonly known as the sixth grade parking lot, and it's in need. So I think at one point there was a question on whether or not that project would be a part of capital projects for this year. Do we know, or?
I'll talk with Mr. Blakely about that. There was the discussion about whether we actually leave the 400,000 in, or whether we take it, or whether we put it to another area in the parking lot. So I'll have that discussion with him.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
For TCTC, the cargo van, is that something, how might that be used? Just give me some understanding for that.
The cargo van is for them to move various things around, especially for Pro Start, and that's the culinary arts team, and it'll be used for the various other departments there when they go to competitions to carry equipment and those things with them.
The earlier budget had a TCTC van. Did we make that adjustment?
I think we made some adjustments to that, and help me, Ms. Barrett, if I'm wrong. I think we're going to use the van from that transportation currently has, and we're going to give that back to TCTC. We're going to give it to TCTC, correct? Right.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So they will be accommodated.
Yes, because right now, I know the culinary arts, they're renting cars to be able to transport things in. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. So we will not be doing a second reading, so we're going to go ahead to curriculum and instruction. Mr. Irwin.
I don't see Ms. Williams. Dr. Cave, is there anyone for curriculum and instruction?
Yes, Ms. Williams is not here, but Ms. Hedden is going to do the report.
Hi, Ms. Hedden.
Hi, how are you? Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
I will be filling in for Ms. Williams tonight and presenting some pertinent information from the Curriculum and Instruction Department. The first information I want to share with you is about the Summer Learning Program enrollment. As you can see, these were our Summer Learning Program enrollment numbers as of April the 29th. Our numbers have continued to increase from 627 to 828 as of this afternoon. Our enrollment will continue through May the 10th, with all enrollments finalized by May the 12th. Summer Learning Partners. That's our next slide. Our district has worked very hard to establish partnerships with outside agencies to help support our summer learning program. We were recently awarded a $30,000 grant through the Summer Reading Camp Partnership Grant, and these monies will be used to target activities with our third grade students. We are part of the District Summer Learning Network, and which assists school districts across the country in maximizing the potential of summer learning by providing weekly professional development sessions and by advising on the planning of the summer learning program. Low Country AHEC will be providing speakers to discuss healthcare internships and careers with our high school students. Another partner is our USC Salkehatchie women's volleyball team, and they will provide guidance to our middle school students on the basics of volleyball and also the importance of physical fitness and healthy lifestyles. Colleton County Parks and Recreation will be allowing our summer camp students to use their facilities free of charge as part of our summer incentive program. And our last partner on this slide is our Colleton County Theater, and it will provide summer classes to our third grade students, and the students will engage in script writing, costume design, and stage performance. Continuing on, our next partnership is Arts Grow, and they will utilize junior camp counselors, which are students with an arts interest and experience. So that would be some of our band students, our visual arts, our chorus, and they will deliver arts integration activities to elementary students. These students will work with an Arts Grow sponsor, as well as the CCSD Champion of the Arts, to deliver high-quality arts instructional activities. Auxilium Youth Development will provide the One Circle curriculum to our middle school students. Our counselors will work with the students 2 to 3 times per week in a small group setting on topics such as friendship and growing strong. Pillars for Hope will provide speakers to address our high school and middle school students on substance abuse prevention. And then our last partner would be Loop It Up Savannah, and they will provide social emotional learning professional development to our staff members, as well as a social emotional learning curriculum to our summer school students. Okay. We're going to move on to our quarter 3 academic achievement data. And this slide will give you the quarter 3 data for students not passing one or more classes as of May 2nd for each school location. This data is closely monitored by our administrators and their leadership staff. The leadership teams get together, they formulate plans on how to address the failures, and they're actively working to decrease the numbers of students failing one or more subjects. So you might ask, well, what are some of the ways that they're addressing this? They are addressing the needs by offering Saturday schools for content recovery. They're encouraging makeup work. They're providing after-hours tutoring and reteaching and retesting content material. Parents have been informed of the students' progress through progress reports, parent conference, phone calls about the students' promotion status, through critical decision forms, and possible retention letters.
Ms. Hedden, before we move on, can I ask a question about that real quick?
Sure.
Is that strictly based on quarter 3, or does that include quarter 1 and 2 for like year-long classes in that as well?
So it depends on what you're looking at. So it would be quarter 3, but for like the high school, that could also encompass semester 1 classes as well.
Okay, so that data could incorporate, okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I can't help, Ms. Hedden, but notice the difference in the numbers reported from the third quarter academic achievement data and the enrollment we have for summer school this year. Is there a way that we can try to capture more of that 1,319 students who have 2 or 1 or more classes that they're failing to get them enrolled in summer school?
That is true. Yes, what we're doing at the high school right now is we have the counselors calling parents and making personal, contact with the parents to say, we just want to make you sure that you're aware of your child's status. We have a wonderful opportunity. Make sure you enroll your child. And so you're seeing that big jump. Just even in a few days, we've gone up over 200 being enrolled in our summer program. And I think a lot of that has come about because of the personal contact that the schools are putting out. Also, tomorrow, we'll have a 9th grade orientation at the middle school. And so although we only have a few that are signed up, we're going to have some of our content specialists, Mr. Cannon, as well as a technology coach that will be working with our 8th graders tomorrow, just to let them understand what 9th grade orientation looks like. why is it important for them to sign up. So I do expect these numbers to go up by the end of the week.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then last, we have our testing schedule. Ms. McDonald, has done a great job in putting this together, and our staff has worked so very hard in preparing our students. There's been all kinds of celebrations and pep rallies to get our children, excited so that they can show what they've been working on all year long. So this is our testing schedule for our current and upcoming standardized testing. And we look forward to seeing the positive growth of our state test as well as our end-of-course exams. So this concludes my part of the Curriculum and Instruction Department report. Do you have any other questions for me?
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Hedden?
I just want to say thank you for the personal contact, reaching out to the parents to get more children involved with the summer program. I guess we have to continue that. And, just like I mentioned before, we do have to work towards with the parents to get them more involved with the children's education. I know it's a lot going on, but we just have to continue. When we're reaching out to the community, the constituents, stakeholders, we first need those parents to come in and be a part and take a part of.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Ms. Hedden? Ms. Hedden, I am going to make sure that I tell Ms. Jessica Williams that you did a phenomenal job filling in for her. Thank you very much, Ms. Hedden.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go to operation. Mrs. Stavanger.
Ms. Fitch.
Good evening. I wanted to, you all have my report, but I want to highlight a few things. The Office of Student Nutrition did receive another grant this month. We received one last month, and then we've received one this month as well for $10,000 from the No Kid Hungry organization. We've worked with them once before and received a grant to increase breakfast participation, and that's what we're doing again for next year. We're trying to increase breakfast participation again through our schools, and they're helping us out with $10,000 to do that. The Office of Transportation will be beginning their summer school routing as soon as they get the final ridership at the end of this week. To make sure that they get that under control before they start routing for next year. So as soon as they get summer school routing completed, they will then turn around and start working on next year's routing. And as you can see, for Building and Grounds, we've been working with Mr. Blakeney and Building and Grounds with a timeline for completing some of the outstanding capital projects that are on there before we go into next year's capital projects. So we've been working on those, and you can see the progress on those and the demolitions that have been taking place. So unless you have any questions for me, that concludes my report.
Any questions?
Ms. Fitch, I just wanted to kind of make a note in our regular maintenance and also capital projects. I know everybody does so much to do so much to keep our schools looking good and being great, and you don't know what needs to be done until somebody says something. But so I'm just going to throw it out there that I know that that the faculty and visitor parking lot lines were just painted at the high school, and wanted to see if we could throw some paint on the speed bumps that specifically entering into the back entrance area. If you don't know those speed bumps are there, you find out very quickly as your head hits the ceiling. So, and maybe something that can be done over the summer, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, so the speed bumps at the high school?
Yes, specifically the back entrance.
Okay, sure, I'll bring that up to Mr. Blakeney.
The painting looks great at Hendersonville, the repainting of the lines.
Okay, and I think there's some more of that listed here that they've been working on and plans for. Any other questions?
No, I'm assuming not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
We wanted to take some time to I did mention it in the beginning for the Moody family. I don't remember her first name. Ariel, okay. We just want to take a moment of silence for the family, for the situation. I know it's difficult, so just a moment of silence, please. Thank you. If there,
Madam Chair, in recognition of Teacher Appreciation Week, some of us were able to attend the Adams family today, so I encourage teachers, go out and see our students perform. And Ms. Drawdy, is retiring, and it was a wonderful event. Dr. Cave, I'm sure enjoyed it as much as some of us that were able to go today with the students, but they will have shows nightly, Thursday, Friday, and Monday at 7. And some former students are there helping with the sound, and she couldn't do it without some of those former students coming back. So it is something wonderful to enjoy, and give yourself a treat for Teacher Appreciation Week. There's another thing I'd like to say for Teacher Appreciation. A colleague of mine and some others of you in the room, you might not have heard, he was an ag teacher here. Mr. Murdoch might know some connection to that. He taught some locals here they're now grown men, but they remember him in 9th grade. His name was Gordon Chipakaitis, and he taught ag and moved on to be the vocational director here, the second vocational director after Mr. Smoke. He retired here. Mary and I both worked with him. He retired in late 90s, and he had MDS, and it roared its head, and he went to hospice over the weekend, and he passed on to glory yesterday. So please remember his family. He moved out to Oklahoma and retired on a ranch, and just wanted you to remember his family this week of Teacher Appreciation, because he made an impact on this district with a lot of people and students.
Dr. Cave, did you want to add something?
The only thing I want to say is that we always recognize our teachers. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week. We're doing various things. The district is providing several things to them as treats throughout the week. And they can wear jeans every single day if they so desire. The schools are doing various things. We'll make a special presentation to all of them next week during our regular board meeting. That's it, if you have no other questions about any of the other reports that came to you.
As I hear none, I just want to thank everyone for your input. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Can I get a second? Second. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Good night, everyone.